I'd like to welcome all my people from uptown, downtown, in town, and out of town. It's your boy Negro Spiritual 121 here on KBOB 89.9 FM. What's up, man? Why you pointing at me like that? KBOB 89.9 FM. It's Negro Nights. I'm here. Let me see here. I got Crystal Renee. Let me see. I can't hear you, Crystal Renee.
Hello, hello.
Okay.
How are you?
Do I got Crystal Renee here on the mic? Let me find out. Crystal Renee. Paul Mutz.
Yeah. How you doing?
And we got our special guest, Todd Billingsley.
The one and only.
The one and only
Leroy
Mr.
Jenkins.
Leroy Jenkins. Mr. Black Tech Street. You say I'm peeking a little bit here on KBOB 89.9 FM. All right.
Can you get into
I need to.
Ty, you can't hear me clearly. Well, go ahead and pretend like you can, Ty. It's all good. Yeah, just you can take your headphones off and listen to me because I project. So on tonight's show, the night shift. Oh, excuse me, Negro Nights.
Negro Nights.
Formerly known as the night shift.
Formerly known as Prince, you got to take the new name.
Formerly known as. Dang, you loud with that over there, my
Look,
man.
well, I can't tell.
Formerly known as, man. You know how we do. So we here, man. We here. How y'all doing this evening?
Excellent.
Happy Mother's Day.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
We have a mother in the building.
Highest honor.
Happy Mother's Day. So how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
You doing good?
Mhm.
All right. Good. Are you having a happy Mother's
Yes.
Day? I'm doing great. This is not how you plan to spend Mother's Day?
What? No, I'm doing
when
just
when
fine.
you signed up for this?
I'm doing just fine.
So how's it going?
It's going good.
You get a Mother's Day gift today?
Mm,
You ain't think about it? You don't celebrate it?
Not really. I'm not big on it. It should be Mother's Day every day.
Okay.
Sure
We
does.
got some background music that we don't need to have on the couch over there. Mr. KBOB in the building. Bobby
What?
Eaton.
King
If-
KBOB.
If it wasn't for King KBOB,
Right.
we wouldn't be
Right.
on Negro Nights.
Put some respect on it.
Put some respect.
Yeah.
Godfather of Greenwood. Godfather of Greenwood.
Godfather of Greenwood.
That's that guy. That's that guy.
Bobby do look like he need like one of those James Brown
Man,
capes.
Right. Just flat it in the back.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
You know who I am.
Yeah.
Right. Down to greatness.
Yes.
Oh, man.
You Uncle Willis.
Yes.
Yo, man. So how you doing there?
I'm fantastic.
So
man.
introduce everybody to our new
Oh, wow.
co-host.
There you go.
I-
You went there.
yeah, like I got to do everything.
Right.
Go ahead, introduce you.
The name of
started
the
it.
show is Negro Nights. The name on your hat is Negro, but yeah, you want me, the woman, to do all the heavy lifting.
Right.
Ain't nothing changed but the name.
Right.
Okay.
Put him in
Yeah.
check.
Ain't nothing changed but the name.
Yeah.
One of our esteemed recurring guests.
Yes, sir.
On the night shift,
Yes.
Paul Michael Mutz.
Mutz.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really
Yeah.
are happy to have you here.
Thank you guys. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to be part of this team, and hopefully I can bring the presence and the heat with it.
Bring that heat, man.
Mhm. Oh yeah, absolutely. And then, last but never least, we have another special reoccurring guest.
Well, that was our reoccurring guest who is now part of
Oh, exactly.
the new
Negro Nights. See, I
Negro
almost said night
Nights.
shift again.
Negro
Negro
Nights.
Nights.
I
Negro
love
Nights.
it,
Just
man.
don't keep saying that. Just to make people
Say it.
uncomfortable.
Nights.
Say it 3
Make
times.
people
Say it
uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Say
that
it-
is the name of the show, Negro Nights.
Say it in the mirror 5 times. I will appear.
You know, when I was a little kid, I used to think that was a bad word, Negro, because you know when you're in the classrooms and you're like one of the only black kids, and then they use the term, you know, reading history or something, and everybody looks at you or they pause on it. Yeah.
That gas,
Hold
all
up.
Or the Niger River.
Niger River.
Oh Lord, that was another one.
You see blue eyes.
Yeah, like, oh, like, hold it, hold it,
Is it
hold it.
okay? Like, nah, I'm okay.
Is it gonna snap?
Stay over there.
Yeah.
I'm all right.
Lord
It's
Jesus.
just a river.
I'm good.
For real.
He say that.
Paul, where are you from? Originally from again?
Uganda. The Pearl of
Uganda.
Africa.
All right.
He said the pearl,
The Pearl of Africa.
not 6th Street Pearl.
Yeah.
No. The Pearl.
The
The
Pearl,
Pearl.
Africa,
Africa.
Uganda. And how old were you when you were you born here? Or were you
No, I came here when I was 19.
19 years old.
Mhm.
Okay.
I have I've been here 19 years, so I say I'm African American now.
Okay,
yeah.
Y'all are
I
real
got it.
African Americans. I'm a Black American. Yes. And then
What's
this
it called? ADOS,
ADO, well, that's different. ADOS,
African descendants.
Descendants.
Oh,
Of
American
slavery.
descendants
So
of slavery.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know.
I heard you come across that term.
Oh, it's it's a
Major.
whole movement.
It's a whole
It's
movement.
circling.
They're
Yeah,
like
really
demanding
hard.
reparation. I mean, they're going hard.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's huge. So you should check that out. Tyrus, you're not. I know. I saw on the social media that you did your ancestry.
Yeah, I did. So we got a breakdown. Matter of fact, let me pull it out.
Okay. Okay.
Let's do this thing.
Watch him be my cousin.
Right.
You know.
Some people get their.
Right. He looks familiar.
That's the homeboy. But no. So yeah, this was something that was super interesting to me because I've always wanted to kind of figure out where I came from and what my ancestry and makeup was. So I did the chart, and lo and behold, I got everything that I am kind of just broken down. So we'll go through it. So I'm 88% sub-Saharan African, as you can tell by looking at me. So 73.4% of that is West African, 33.7% Nigerian, 27.8% Ghanaian, Liberian, and Sierra Leonean, 3.2% Senegambian and Guinean, 8.7%
LIB.
broadly West African, Congolese, and Southern East African, Angolan, and just more broadly Sub-Saharan African. And then this shocked me. I mean, I knew there was probably somewhere I didn't know it was 10%. So Northwestern European, British, and Irish is 9.6%, 0.5% Scandinavian.
Vikings.
That's crazy.
Vikings.
I know. That's
We
crazy.
know where you're.
You need to go there and claim your territory.
I'm
Like,
saying,
I'm a
I'm
Viking
saying,
now.
Yeah.
They're probably like, you can't do that. No. But all right, 0.8% North African. So it's Western Asian and North African. So 0.6% North African, 0.2% broadly Western Asian and North African. And then here's the interesting part: you got trace ancestry. So this is what it's not prominent in you, but it was in you. So 0.3% Filipino and Austronesian, 0.3% Indonesian, Thai, and Myanmar. 0.2% Western Asian and North African, and 0.1% Native American. And then it says your recent ancestry in the Americas. I've got traces of Caribbean, Jamaica, and Barbados.
Are we counting stuff that's 0 point?
I mean, you technically it's the fact that you count it because it's in there. It just means, and again, I could be wrong. I believe that just means it's like further. It's a little
Yeah,
bit further.
it's further down.
Trace it,
But
yeah.
it basically shows that we're all interconnected. Like my parents, all from Uganda, but I did a thing, and it wasn't as detailed as that. But it was a blood test when I was going through medtech school, and they said I had 3% Asian in me. I was like, how is it possible? Yeah, all my parents, but you never know. So it shows
So-
how connected we are.
You had 3% Keep America Great in you. Did
There it is.
But he also has that 0.3% of Myanmar, which will burn this down because they are about it.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, obviously, if you were a descendant of, if you were a Black American here, you probably assume you have some kind of white.
Wow.
We know how slavery, we know how it was during slavery. You know what happened sometimes. So yeah, I
Mhm.
wasn't shocked to learn that. Learning that it was like 10, almost 11% was a little bit like, okay, that's I didn't quite know that. That means it might have been a little bit more recent than I
Mhm.
thought. But yeah, it's
Some people get their ancestry done and then they come away real sad because they either thought
Man,
I
Right?
just knew I had this in me, I knew I had that, and find out like no, it's mostly been our
you would say so.
melaninless friends who are the most sad. But boy, when they have that melanin, they have that ancestry, they be so excited. Like I got my ancestry done.
So what's the next step? Are you gonna travel there?
You know, I don't.
Where? You said there.
There's
That's
not
everywhere.
everywhere.
You gotta go.
Literally the whole.
Yeah.
He
I
named
don't-
every country on the
I don't
continent.
know.
Right,
I mean,
right.
obviously, going to the motherland has always been on my priority list. But some of these other places, yeah, it's interesting to learn about. But
Mhm.
I mean,
All
I
right.
don't know.
When are you going to the motherland? I'm inviting you.
Man, I'm hoping to get there within the next 3 years, man.
Do it.
I'm really hoping. There's a lot of I'm feeling so much more, connection
Mhm.
just recently, and not just because of the history of Greenwood, but just because I've been thinking a lot about there's what we want to do for Black people here in America, but you know what? There's been a lot of ideas about reconnecting to the motherland.
Mhm.
But how can we really do that in a way that really helps empower the people of the African diaspora?
Mhm.
So I think about it a lot, and I think that it's strong in terms of
You got some
No
ideas?
mess. But like the moment you said that, I got like chills. Like seriously, because that's something I've been thinking about for a long time. Like, how is it that? Because blackness is the same all around the world. That's what I always tell people. Our struggle is the same. It has different flavors,
right.
but the struggle is the same.
Mhm.
And so, how can we connect that way? We're working together. Continent doesn't matter anymore. We're now a superhighway of information and everything. So we can actually work around these obstacles that are quote unquote there,
Right.
and figure out how we can build our unity as blackness, build it stronger, so that we can have something of substance that we own.
And something that's made me curious is if people knew about it, what does Greenwood mean to people? If the history of Greenwood is known by some people in the motherland, what is it? What does that mean? Like, is that
The funny thing is, we don't know.
Mm.
All I knew about America was from the movies, and so the only movie I knew about America or show was The Roots.
the root?
Oh.
That's the
That was
only
it?
thing.
You know
the
what?
only thing.
I was in a room on Clubhouse. Sorry, Paul, because
No,
I was
no.
actually going to bring that up, but you made the point. I was in a room on Clubhouse, which Clubhouse is real ghetto right now.
It is.
So, there was like 2 weeks of straight like people from different African countries and Black Americans just going at it in these rooms about, like all these issues came up. And one of the things that came up is that there was a Black woman from the UK who said that the only um, information that they would get about Black Americans is what was consumed like through pop culture and the
Yes.
media and TV, and like we know what that is.
Mhm,
So okay,
mhm.
so that's
No,
what I'm
think about it, right? Yeah, all of American history, as we know, has kind of shunned the African experience or Black experience in the textbooks, right?
Yeah.
So the curriculum that is out there that got out. Remember, internet is pretty young.
Mhm.
Even in Uganda, I remember the internet I had when I was like 16 was only Yahoo. So imagine what's on Yahoo.
Yeah.
You're not going to find the story about. So anything I learned about America was through the movies.
Mhm.
And at the time, the roots, I'm telling you, roots is the only thing I knew about slavery in America,
Wow.
right? So, and I was a kid at that time. So I never got to understand the struggle. And then I learned about Malcolm X and Martin Luther King when I got here,
Okay.
right? So I never knew what the struggle was. So when we come here, and I realized, like, if I come here and I don't know, there is that sense of, and I've talked to my sister-in-law about it, it's that we say things and it might be offensive to
Mhm.
Black Americans. And it's really, we're not trying to be like jerks, so if I can say that, but it's like we don't know, right? And
Yeah.
so it kind of creates tension because I'm coming to you without the burden that you feel, and I'm trying to tell you how to feel.
That's interesting.
That's
because
already an issue.
Already
and
an issue.
how I mean, I can see that pretty easily because I mean, just take what we consume about the motherland, what we think
Mhm.
Africa
Right.
is versus what it actually is.
Exactly.
Right.
How people actually live and what's actually going on there. So I don't doubt that there's this communication disconnect. I'm just curious as to how much of that is a result of how global society is oriented and how much of it is specifically related to us as a
It's
people,
really
you know,
because I truly believe, and there could be superpowers in there or whatever, but I truly believe it's meant to keep us disconnected.
Mhm.
Because the more disconnected we are, the more we don't know what we have, right?
That's wow.
So,
That's a perfect word, disconnected.
right. So in
Mhm.
Africa, why can't we be the United States of Africa,
Yeah.
right? But the more they know that, almost all the world minerals, oil, everything is there. We contribute the most collectively. If we got those people to work together, what's that going to mean? We're not going to take
I
away.
mean, then you go on like I know that I got a lesson in Liberian politics from Baxter's cousin Stacy. She's
Right.
very knowledgeable about like the system of government and how it's set up and all the corruption, and even with Hibden Tire having a 100-year contract to get a
Mhm.
rubber from Liberia that was I mean just
Yes.
things like that. It's just like who
No,
allowed these things to happen?
because the funny thing, and the thing that I always think about is like, I wish Black America knew what they had,
Yeah.
because if they went, they could rescue Africa, and they could own Africa in the sense of, think
Wow.
about it, right? I believe it's Zambia or Zimbabwe. They owed, I believe it was roughly like $500 million. I think it was $500 million to the Chinese government. Not a lot of money, right? And they defaulted because they went through political unrest and all that.
Mhm.
And because they defaulted, China took their electric grid for the next 100 years. So what does that mean? China owns that country.
Mhm.
Because
which country did you say?
I believe it's Zambia or Zimbabwe. It's
Okay,
a Z
okay.
country.
Uh-huh.
And what that means is, if this country doesn't do what we want, we can shut off the electricity and put them in the Stone Age,
Yeah.
right? So they're going
Mhm.
to do what we want.
It's another form of
Now, what is
slavery.
$500 million in the scheme of things,
For a
In the scheme
nation,
of
for
global
a
economy,
country.
that's nothing.
right?
That's nothing.
So it's the same concept in, if Black Americans, not just Americans, but because I'm in America, I say that. But if we knew what we had, we could liberate Africa and own and build our own currency, build our own economy, and all of that.
That's
And so then, because why corruption happens is, a guy, let's say a minister, works in the government, and prestigious position, makes about 500, I mean, $5 million a month base
Mhm.
pay. That is equal to about $1,500 here,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So then China comes in and says, we're going to give you $100 million, but you sign on this dotted line. Do you think that guy is going to question what's in that dotted line? It's more money than he can ever imagine, and his whole family. So I see the corruption, but it's also like, imagine the amount of money. Like, imagine the temptation you would feel if all you've ever earned is
I
1,500,
agree.
and then some
Yeah.
guy is giving 100 million in one.
That's
I agree.
I've been the track you ran is the track that I've been on kind of the last 6 months. And it's crazy because, growing up and reading about all of these different ideas and philosophies politically, I always used to put the likes of Marcus Garvey and other types of Pan Africanist movements in a box, because I was like, man, coming up, I was like, oh, that's a little too extreme.
Right.
As you grow up and then you start to think about these things, the African diaspora has really come a forefront in my mind, and the opportunity for not only the rebuilding of Africa, but the impact that it can have on the global economy if we were able to create systems in Africa where people are able to innovate in a way
Yes.
where they have the resources to.
Yes.
That's part of the thesis. I know we're going to get into black texture later, but that's one of the theses of it is, for all of human history, all of society, the global society has only been pushed forward by a small minority of people. And I don't just mean white people. I mean, if you think of a system like kings, feudal lords, priests, you have all these systems where only some people can read, only some people have resources, only some people can have the resources to innovate in certain ways. Imagine a world where we've created systems where everybody has the ability to unleash their innovative potential and
Yes.
impact the world.
Wow.
We haven't seen a world like that, and I bet it would solve a lot of our problems if we were able to.
Yes.
Oppression isn't just something that's a moral injustice; it's holding us back as human people.
Right.
Mhm.
Like,
know?
innovation is the way forward. You want to
It's the
get
way forward.
you want to get rid of all the issues that you're doing, innovate.
Mhm.
And as long as you push innovation in in any group of people, that group will thrive, right?
Mhm.
And so the problem with African presidents and all of that, they've held on to power and all of that, and so they don't have ideas for innovation. Yet you have a number of, like in Uganda, 70% of the population is like 35 and below.
Mhm.
And
Really?
so you have a group, like the largest group of people who want to work, who want
Mhm.
just give me something
Mhm.
and I'll go at it. But the government is just like, no, 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 no. We'd rather just. And so we have
It's power and control.
exactly.
Mhm.
But if you came in and said, the funniest of things is, like, if you were in Uganda and you started a business, they're gonna try to shut you down. They put so much taxes on you. But if you come from another country, no taxes for the first 10 years.
Wow.
You can lease land for 100 years, and you can do all of these things that African themselves they could not do.
Okay, so this will bring me back. This will bring me around to what is the underlying issue? Because um I spend a lot of time in rooms on Clubhouse because I like to listen and learn, especially when you have access to people from all around the world and on these topics. And I started seeing a common denominator and a common theme, and was is that globally, Black people, globally, we all are suffering under the same. I shouldn't say suffer. We have an identity crisis,
Yes.
a huge identity crisis.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter if you're from Jamaica, from
Yes.
Sierra Leone, from Detroit, Michigan.
Yes.
We have the same identity crisis. And we really have, we all have been conditioned. We all have been programmed. And what I'm saying is we've all been programmed, like since the beginning of time, colonialism, slavery, all of these things.
We
We've
have
all
a
been
suffering complex.
excuse me. But we operate. What I'm really trying to say is this system, um, the white standard, the white supremacist system that has been the foundation of so many governments and globally or whatever. We have taken that on and we have internalized it,
Yes.
and we mete it out to each other. And instead of recognizing that we've all been conditioned under this same system, hey, let's fix it. I see like all these different, I mean, just fighting, 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 who's more oppressed, who, this, that, and the third. Like, what is the answer? Like, what is it going to take for actual real change? I know what this man across the way is going to say, we got to take care of us. Absolutely. And so, what
But
I
now
have
you
learned,
you need to lay down action steps beyond that.
well,
Which
you want
he's
you want
doing.
him to have plans?
Which
Yeah,
he's
because
doing.
he'll
No, no,
pull it
which
out.
he's
Glad to
doing.
be
But what
here.
I'm also saying is that what I see people calling for this collective shift, like collectively, we all need to get together collectively and do this, and do that. But in this country, what I'm seeing is that even Black people, even though we say we're a Black community, we still operate as individuals, which is people have problems with that. It's okay because I truly believe that if we all individually like work on ourselves, like work on the inner work, and like Terrence is doing, you know what I mean, being innovative, figuring out what our gifts and our callings and our talents are in on an individual basis, then collectively the paradigm will shift. But I just see people arguing about how we're going to do this because they still think that we have to get everybody together. Everybody has to have this one, this we're going to do it this way. There's no other way to do it. We need the leaders. We need somebody at the top to tell us what to do. And I disagree with that in some sense. Is that y'all looking at me?
Actually,
No,
I
oh no, you
let
go
me
ahead.
let me say something here.
go ahead.
I feel that you have to have a agreed upon agenda. If you like if you're any type of, if you're talking about government structure, you're like a political party or something, y'all have to all agree. We all
Mhm.
agree on this and we're moving in
Mhm.
this direction.
Now you're talking about groups,
But we're
right?
talking about a group of people.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about Black people in
Mhm.
America as a group of people.
Mhm.
One thing that Black people will have to, let's just take this conversation about reparations. We can't come to any type of agreement on that. Then how is that going to even come about to be a reality?
Mhm.
If we can't say that who gets it, who doesn't get it, how much it should be, if basketball is a form of reparations, as somebody said recently.
What apart?
Yeah, all kinds of different things that people been saying was a form of teaching the kids. that you know what I mean. There's all these different things that people have been saying is a form of reparations that doesn't have to do with economics. It doesn't have to do with the finances that was
Okay.
lost or stolen.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And so if we don't have a collective,
That's difficult.
Well,
But here's
Hold
the
on,
thing.
The
Mine
collective
is
overall,
Mm.
that's hyper different. When it comes to Black reparations on Black Wall Street, that's a more focused conversation.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it's
No, no.
one,
That can
one.
be-
You're talking about one incident,
that
one
can
place.
be, that can
but
be
what I'm
worked
saying,
out.
like,
But go ahead.
because you have to understand, like, as a collective, right? Black
Mhm.
people, we are a mess, and I'm not meaning in a bad thing, but we're not organized, right?
Mhm.
In such
Don't
instances,
say mess.
you know what I mean.
Okay, I just
you
got
know,
to say
let's
here on
right.
KBOB 89.9.
I don't mean that in a
FM.
negative thing, right? But
Yeah,
we're not
black on black community
Right.
radio.
I would. I feel what
No,
you're
let
trying
him
to say.
finish.
Yeah,
I
go ahead,
cut him
go
off
ahead,
12
go ahead,
times,
go
but I
ahead.
needed to let him know that.
No,
I understand.
I'll go
And
ahead.
again, it's for a lack of a better word. But what I meant was this: in times of where it's not organized,
Mm-hmm.
it's like he said, a small group of people need to rise up and need to have a vision
Mhm.
and go against it. I mean, go for it
Mhm.
in spite of everything else,
I like how you said
Right?
small.
See,
and just go at it. Because the thing is, there's always going to be in whatever population, wherever you go, you're going to have a bunch of people
Mm-hmm.
who have ideas, who argue, and who all of this, but they never move.
Yeah.
And then you have these group of
Stagnant.
people who stagnant. So you never move. You're always discussing.
Mhm.
You're always
Meeting
in
after
it,
meeting,
right?
meeting after meeting.
But then you have a group of people who say, "We're moving forward.
Mhm.
Whether we get hate, whether we get love,
Yes.
we're moving forward," and that attracts people. And so if you start, I don't care if it's just us five. Let's say we said we're moving forward and we're taking this one vision. Let's say it's Black Tech Street, right?
Mhm.
And I don't know much about it, but let's say we all supported this,
Mhm.
and every day we breathe, we live, we
Mhm.
do for Black
Mhm.
Tech Street, right?
Mhm.
That says these five are doing it. It automatically draws people to you,
Mhm.
and it says these are the people, and all you're looking for are it's 30, 30, 30. The first 30 are yes,
Mhm.
that's what you're looking for. The 30 next 30 is maybe, and there's a 30% who will never love you. So don't even talk to those guys, and then you keep on moving. And if you ever the greatest example of that for me that I've ever seen was the country Rwanda.
Mhm.
You've heard of the Hotel Rwanda and all of that.
Mhm.
Right after that, so it was 30 days of genocide, people killing each other. 100, I think it was like 1 million people in 30 days, right? And nobody helped. The whole world just
We
looked,
just watched.
right? And then came this president right now. You can hate him or love him, but it was in 1990 something, right?
Mhm.
Since 1990 something till now, it's one of the smallest countries in all of Africa,
Mhm.
but it's the number one leading economy now,
Mm.
like highest growing economy. And what he did was, this is where we're going. I don't care what the superpowers say. I don't care what they do. I don't care if they label him a dictator, a killer, and all of that. It's like when they were killing ourselves, they never stepped up. But now that I'm helping, I'm gonna kill. I'm
And see,
this.
even with Black Tech Street terms, which is the perfect segue because it's 8:30, we'll take a short commercial break before we jump into it. Even with like what you're doing with that and what you're going to talk about, changing one person, one kid, I don't know who your target is, but let's just say you have like a youth camp or something. Changing one, you never know. I am a huge proponent of the each one teach one
Oh yeah.
because you literally you
Yeah,
can
right.
change, and it doesn't take much to
It is.
change, to really change the trajectory of a whole generation of people, especially kids that look like us. And so we ready to go to commercial, and how you feeling about commercials? You gonna be able to get
Here
a,
on
you gonna be able to
KBOB
go to a commercial?
89.9 FM. We'll be right back.
Oh, you is ready.
How to order chicken wings. Number one, find a good wing spot. I know a wing spot. That's wings. Number two, decide if you want a combo or if you want to order a la carte.
Huh? What's that?
Well, combos come with chicken, veggie sticks, fries, and a drink for a discounted price. A la carte means that you order each item separately.
Okay.
Decide if you want bone-in, boneless, or cauliflower wings, and then determine the delicious flavor you want on your wings.
I didn't even know cauliflower had wings.
You learn something new every day. Have you been to Max Wings? Max
Yep.
Wings is located at 782 East Pine Street in Tulsa. We're open Monday through Thursday from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. and on Friday and Saturday from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Come to Max Wings, home of the dry rub fries.
Searching for ways to grow your business? Or perhaps you would like to invest in Tulsa's African American community. The Black Wall Street Chamber of Commerce is a great place to start. The Chamber was created to serve and increase the visibility of needs in our community. It is an umbrella organization for local businesses, the Tulsa Juneteenth Festival, BWS for Black Women in Business, and the Grassroots Economic Development Fund known as BWS The Power Group. For more information about the Black Wall Street Chamber of Commerce or to donate to the Power Group, visit bwschamber.com.
It's the Juice Radio Show, bringing the livest people on our show. Tulsa's top chefs, music artists, and entrepreneurs sit down exclusively with the Juice. You're now rocking with the best. The Juice Radio Show, Tulsa.
Tulsa Transit is excited to introduce the Route 969 Workforce Express Network. The new Highway 169 Corridor Job Shuttle, WEN, is a fixed route service offering access from North Tulsa and Turley. Stops include Macy's, Amazon, Whirlpool, and Port of Catoosa. Save time and money when you ride the WEN Route 969. And for your protection, buses are cleaned daily. Visit tulsatransit.org for more details.
And we are back. Negro Spiritual 121. Crystal Renee.
What's up, everybody?
I was gonna say something. I ain't gonna
I'm
say
glad you didn't.
Mutz. Man, we in the building. Mutz. Hold on, let me unmute you.
Yes, sir.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
And then we have, last but not least, oh, there I am. I can hear myself now. Tyrants Billingsley the second.
Smell.
The second here with us again. You know, he's one of our favorite guests to talk. We've actually kept it kind of mild on our re-debut night. Usually we jump right into
We
it.
had to get on
Yeah.
Bobby neck real quick.
Yeah.
So one thing that you guys started talking about was before we had our break was innovation. You're talking about innovation and the changes that we could see around globally for Black people. We bring innovation.
Yes.
And then you started, kind of circling back to the home front, Tulsa, where we're at now. So innovation in Tulsa, Tyrants Billingsley, Black Tech Street.
Blackety Tech Street.
Bliggity, bliggity, black on black.
That should be a
Tech.
commercial. The
Bliggity,
black
bliggity, black.
y'all.
On the block.
Y'all.
Yeah.
Oh, blackity black.
The man bringing the Black Tech Street, eh?
Yeah.
Man, dog.
He got
He
one.
the computer man.
He got one. The computer man here. 1%
You
Liberian.
know computer? Yeah.
My man.
Oh, don't tell the
you
Liberian
know
community you know computer.
you know
boy.
computer?
They gonna start
Oh,
calling you.
man.
How much he charge? Come here. We got sausage.
Y'all something else.
Sausage.
Y'all are something else.
Can we find
Happy
out?
Mother's Day.
Yes. Happy Mother.
There
Yeah,
you go.
Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. I'm not a huge fan of Mother's Day because somebody had to help me check my attitude this morning. They were like, Happy Mother's Day. I was like, yeah. They were like, it's a blessing to be a mom. I'm like, yeah, but I don't like the fact that it reminds people that they either can't have kids or they lost their mothers, and then people feel like they have to spend money. I don't like that. But he's right. It is a blessing to have kids. Even though mine regularly work my nerves, they are a blessing. They are a blessing. Anyway, so Tyrants Billingsley. So Tyrants, tell us about Black Tech Street. Why is it needed? When did you come up with the idea, and where are we at with it right now?
So yeah, Black Tech Street has been years in the making, and this man right here can tell you, he was probably one of the first people I told about it, and this was years ago. But I've always been an entrepreneurial person. I've always been fascinated with technology, and that being connected to Black Wall Street just accentuated that, because it's like every person dreams that there might be something special about them, but then to figure out that we're on the grounds of we're on sacred land,
Yep.
that's you can't compete with that. So obviously, it's like so many other people here, I felt the need or a duty to see what could be done to rebirth whatever this energy was that existed. So I started to think, what would Black Wall Street have been had it been supported and not destroyed?
Mhm.
What could it have been? And looking at the level of tenacity and resilience that these black entrepreneurs had to build these incredible companies during Jim Crow, you know,
Pioneer.
that
Come on.
attitude, that I'm not gonna let anything stop me attitude. I mean, that kind of tenacity reminded me of the tech industry. And when you combine that with the fact that black people have always been some of the world's greatest innovators, that tech has an outsized influence on our economy, and it is the main medium through which global innovation happens, I kind of surmise that had Black Wall Street been supported and not destroyed, it would be nothing other than the world's premier black tech innovation economy. And that is the mission of Black Tech Street, which is to rebirth Black Wall Street as the world's premier black tech innovation economy, but not just stopping there. Just like Black Wall Street is kind of this banner for black self sufficiency and black success in business, I want Black Tech Street to be a global banner for black people in the African diaspora everywhere to know that the tech industry is an industry that you should embrace. A, to close the racial wealth gap, and B, just to have a great impact on the world through technology and innovation. So
Word.
to break down us as an organization, let me know if this mic is.
It's just you good. Just scoot
All
up.
right.
Don't be rocking
I'll
back.
be rocking back and forth.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So we got a couple of strategic pillars, and they can actually be broken down into 6 different pillars, but we kind of collapse them into 4 sometimes. So that first pillar is the attraction of African American talent and entrepreneurs to Tulsa. So talent being black remote workers and entrepreneurs, and capital being a blend from venture capital to debt capital to grant capital, depending on what different entrepreneurs need to grow their businesses and scale. But I got some new thoughts on that point. We'll circle back. The second pillar is actually the tech enabling of our local African American businesses that aren't inherently these hockey stick growth high tech companies, because we know that what we don't want people thinking is that, oh, us embracing tech means that brick and mortar mom and pop shops, you're ignoring us now. That's not the case at all. We know tech can be used to enhance any discipline. So we want to be tech enabling these local African American businesses so that they can increase their revenues, increase their consumer engagement, all sorts of different ways that they can improve their business through tech. We want them to embrace it. Our fourth pillar is actually building out an apparatus adjacent. Our third pillar, excuse me, is actually building out an apparatus adjacent to our school systems that allows young African American kids to grow up learning things like coding and tech entrepreneurship. So if you imagine, we talked about kids being the key. I 100% agree. What we instill in our kids is what's going to be the future of our people. So if they grow up learning things like tech entrepreneurship and STEM education, and then upon graduating, rather than simply going to a 4-year university or a 2-year trade school, becoming a tech entrepreneur, a software engineer, or mobilizing into an economy that's ready to receive black technologists is a viable third option. That could be game changing. And then this fourth pillar, it's advocating at the state and local level for minority and tech friendly policies, just to ensure that this ecosystem we're building is built out in a way that is conducive to best practices. So between these 4 pillars, we have a goal to facilitate $1 billion worth of investment in this community over the next 10 years. And we want to essentially use the centennial as a catalyst to say, 100 years ago, we used to look at Tulsa and Greenwood to say, that's a model that inspires us. 100 years later, we want you looking back at Tulsa so we can give the gift to say that tech is the way forward, no matter where you are. You don't even necessarily have to come to Tulsa, but know that to be black is to be innovative. And that's what the Black Tech Street banner and movement is about. It's about black people everywhere saying technology is the future, technology is a means to build wealth, and technology is our legacy. This isn't anything new. This is re-education. Look at what we've built in ancient times from all of these different societies. We've always been the STEM people, but for some reason, well, not for some reason, because of racism, oppression, and colonialism, a lot of black kids now grow up fearing STEM specifically and want to go into other fields because they think that they're not smart enough. And I know that's where you come from. That's our mark of who we are on this planet. And Black Tech Street is meant to remind black people of that everywhere, with the Centennial as a catalyst, because Greenwood was a beacon centuries ago, and I'm hoping for it to be a beacon again. So
I like that.
There you go.
that's where we at. That's what we about.
So essentially, also, you're talking about deprogramming from that old mindset. When you said our kids are scared, being a former classroom teacher, you're 100% correct. That if I see one of the things that I saw when I was in the classroom was that our students who were just so proficient in math and science, I mean, they picked it up like that. And the other ones, it wasn't that they couldn't learn; they just the way that we were taught to teach them was not connecting with the way that they could learn math and science. So
Right.
and I see that as a huge problem. So how do you address? How does Black Tech Street address that?
So first and foremost, so there's programming and whatnot, and we could talk about metrics and making sure that we have certain outcomes, but that's not the core of it. The core of it is that personal narrative. I remember I share it all the time. I saw a meme that had a black queen with dyed, with it was hair, it was natural, but it was dyed, and it was just, and she was in a lab coat, and it was a meme that said, "This is what a scientist looks like." Retweet. This is what a scientist looks
Died.
like.
When you say died,
It's just. I'm just saying she
Her
had
hair
her
was
own thing
colorful.
going on. It was.
She wasn't the white man in a lab
She was
coat.
unapologetically herself, and she was in the lab. That's where it starts. The narrative of saying, if you are a young black person, you don't just look like an NBA player or entertainer. You look like the technologist that might solve climate change. You look
Yeah.
like the CEO of a tech company
Exactly.
that's going to
Yeah.
revolutionize people's lives.
Because for the
That's
past
that narrative.
for the past like 19 years that I've been here, the only images that I've seen, like predominantly, are the rappers,
Right.
ball players, football players, and all of that. And like, we need to create a new image for black people.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
everything that I've heard, and again, I don't knock anybody. I respect everybody that's gone before me, but everything that has been said has focused mainly on black history. And our history has been a history of pain. We need to create a future, talk about the black future, focus more on that.
Well, see, the thing
Black
is, Paul, is that you,
future.
but if you don't focus, if you don't look at history, then how do you know where you're going?
That's-
And and as far as Black Wall Street, one of the things when I teach it or talk about it is we all know about the massacre. We all know about urban renewal that put the
Right.
highway right through the Greenwood community, which was the second theft of that land through eminent domain. But what we focus on is the innovation. If we don't even
Exactly.
know that we were capable of that, then we don't know that we can do that. So history is important. It just depends on how you present it. When you
Yes,
talk about
I
slavery,
think
you talk
sorry.
about
Go ahead.
when you're speaking about slavery, you're speaking about the pain, but I also think about how resilient our people were to make it
Right.
through that. That's what so history needs to be told, the good, the bad, and the ugly,
yes.
right?
Oh yes,
But
history has to
especially-
be taught.
But especially in this country, the problem is that everybody's been miseducated.
let,
Yes.
let me say something right quick. So what I'm hearing from Mutz is that when it comes to history, it's something like how I felt about protesting as an activist, right? I thought protesting was like obsolete. Like, why are we doing this? People marched and protested already in the 60s and who knows however many times.
right.
And why are we still doing things and I didn't respect protesting, and as I do now, as it being a cattle call, as it being like, hey, look, a trumpet, this is an issue. It's happening. Everybody needs to get involved. There's voting drives at protests. You get volunteers, you rally people, you bring people together, and y'all don't stop at the protest.
Yes.
So that's, I think what he's saying is about history. Don't stop at learning the history,
Mhm.
understanding it, and knowing it, and dwelling on it, and stopping and staying at that
Exactly.
point.
I agree.
Grow
Like,
past the
Exactly.
history.
Yeah,
But
It's
we,
like-
but I agree. We got to go past this because we
Mhm.
got to move in the future. But the problem is, we haven't even gotten the right history to grow past from the
No,
public
I
education
it's
system.
and it's,
I mean, you know,
it's not to and maybe I said it wrong. It's not to say that let's not talk about the history.
Oh
Let's
no, I
not-
understand
yeah.
what you meant.
It's saying that, for example, I always
Right,
ask this
stop.
in a group. I ask, like, name one prominent person in black culture who talks about black future.
I mean, black future. I mean, you could argue a lot of people. But I'm not gonna rattle off.
Yeah,
names,
yeah.
What
But
I'm saying,
My man JB, Oklahoma City, Black Future.
right?
His last album
But the thing
before this album.
before this album, right? Why
Shout
I
out.
ask that is that as much we can, I don't care how much energy you put in Black history. We can
Mhm.
put as much as we need to, but we also need to put equal,
if not more.
if not more, into Black future.
So yeah,
Let me-
So that, because that way our narrative, and like you said, that identity, for us to have to relinquish that identity that you said, where we're in that narrative of suffering, we need to create a new identity
Mhm.
of hope and of future and of believing that that's where we're going.
so
Hold on, Ty.
All right.
Before
All right.
you get there,
Go
I
ahead.
want to say this because he's talking about moving forward. He's talking about making it a reality, right?
Yes.
And so when thinking about moving forward and making things a reality, specifically we're talking about Tulsa right now. We're
Right.
talking about Tulsa. We're talking about innovation. We're talking about, we got Tyrance Billingsley here talking about Black Tech Street. We don't just got a guy here in a teal thermal and some nursing
and some orthopedics.
and some
Right.
and an orthopedic nursing shoe.
Right.
How did you make this thing real? He's not just talking these brilliant, beautiful words. Like
Right.
he's been networking with what is it, Representative
Congressman.
Ro
Connor. Yeah.
Ro Khanna, and he's a state representative for
He's the federal congressional representative for Silicon Valley.
And what-
federal congressional representative for Silicon
So
Valley.
did y'all hear that? He's not over here just blowing hot air. Woulda, shoulda,
Yeah.
coulda. I wish. This man is actually putting the work in and making the moves that need to be done to get this vision out there.
Hence, people like him need to be elevated at all
Exactly.
costs.
And there's
At
more
all
Exactly.
costs.
Listen,
100%.
listen.
Wait, let me-
Tyron's name was in Forbes
Magazine.
Yeah.
So Tyron's name was
yeah.
hey, look, that's my friend.
Yeah.
look, and I appreciate the spotlight, but really, part of what's so important about this story is that, I'm trying to show people that this is in everybody. I don't
Mhm.
believe in I'm a fan of, I read a lot of different ideas from different Black leaders, and even though WEB has some great points, I don't necessarily believe in that talented tip. I think it's in all of us. And we gotta get up there. Part of what I was gonna say to your point, though, I agree 100% with you. We've got to build out this new narrative, but and I agree, more focus should be put on the future than the past. But the past is important because
Yes.
human beings think in narratives.
Yes.
And if your narrative is I've been suffered and I've been oppressed, I've been suffering and I've been oppressed our entire history, and I've never built anything, even if you do put forward to thinking in the future, it's gonna be a harder lift because
Yes.
you don't think you're doing it from
Yes.
scratch. But if you know that 90% of your life was you excelling and pushing this world forward with brilliance and innovation, and then you went through a period where other people came in, enslaved you, but that was a small point in your life. It's like
Right.
when you're an individual, like your whole life isn't defined by one abuse you suffered. You live
Right.
a whole
Fact.
life,
Right.
and then whether or not you see your whole life in light of that abuse, or whether or not you see your whole life in light of everything else that
Right.
happened, that's going to have a huge effect on how you go forward and the confidence that you have.
Right.
So I think that it is. I agree with you 100%.
I like
Yeah,
the way
I
you
agree
put
with
that.
you too, Paul.
I like
was
the way you
not
put that.
Yeah, and I'm not
disputing
dissing you. I agree.
No,
what you said.
I
You
like
know-
I always tread that carefully because I don't want to offend anybody. But,
No, I
but the
feel
way
you.
I look at
I'm
it is
definitely offended.
Yeah, right. No, but the way I look at it is, let's take it for example, a woman who comes from an abusive relationship, right?
Mhm.
And she was being beaten and all of that, right? The only way to move past that abuse is to see herself overcoming, right?
Mhm.
It's not saying let's not knock what she went through, but she has to see herself overcoming and becoming this new version of her who is independent of this guy, because it's usually a narrative of I've been held back by this guy for some reason, and you thought that you cannot overcome. But the moment you see yourself as a new person,
Mhm.
then you have this vision as I'm going to work on myself to get to this new person.
Or anybody in
Or
any
any-
kind of
yeah,
relationship.
in any kind of relationship.
I feel that.
So, in the sense of we as Black population around the world, we still have the trauma from racism all over the world,
Mhm.
right? But we need to create a new identity, acknowledging that what we've gone through, like you said, we've been resilient, but now we have to create a new identity for
So
our
that-
kids.
Bro, this is I love what you're saying,
Yeah.
and this brings me to a segue because this is something I want to get out about Black Tech Street. There are two things that Black Tech Street will have failed if it happens. If 10 years in the future, only Tulsa's a thriving Black Tech hub, Black Tech Street has failed. But also, if 10 years in the future, Black Tech Street just produces a few rich Black people, but most of us are still struggling and still fail.
Yeah.
What Black Tech Street is meant to do is we are trying to really find a new way to equitably build economies in ways that unleash everybody's potential. And this is very important because if I'm being honest, there are a lot of movements and ideas out there that, yes, are meant for Black people, but are incorporating some of the same oppressive ideas and systems.
Yes.
Black Tech Street, we are trying to build a more oppressive system, and a lot of different movements just want Black people to replace
Build a more
white
what
people
system?
across a hierarchy atop the. I'm saying we need to build. We're trying to build an equitable system that
Okay.
really works for people, and so many different ideas about this. When you think about how much money can be made and whatnot, they just want Black people to replace white people atop this hierarchy of oppression. But what we've got to do is we've got to do this differently. You know, some people think that Black people just inherently would do things differently than white people if we were in power. And to some extent, it's true, but to some extent, it's not.
It's
To a
not.
large extent, it's not.
It's not.
Oppression is not something that's we internally with Black within our culture. I mean, how we treat our women, how we treat mental health.
How we
Sometimes I'm
treat
not
the
saying everybody.
LGBTQIA community.
All
in
of
our
the
culture.
LGBT, like
Yes.
all, I'm saying, what I'm saying is, and I'm not painting with a broad brush. What I'm simply saying is, we are not angels.
You're saying
who are
people
immune-
are
Exactly.
So we are not angels who are
Right.
immune to perpetuating oppression, and
Right.
we have to be cognizant of that when we rise, so we don't end up becoming our oppressor just with different skin color.
Yeah.
Right.
So
How do-
that's very important.
How do people get in contact with you, Tyrants, to find out more about Black Tech Street? And if I'm a mom who has a working mother or working parents, we're a working family, we have 2 kids at home, we work all the time, blah blah blah, and our kids are like really interested in computers, they like to stay playing on video games, and what does Black Tech Street say to that? Like, what's the answer to that? What type of Go ahead.
A, keep up, but B, I'll be able to talk more about that after in the
Ah,
next few weeks. But
okay.
let me.
Black Tech Street Gaming
No,
League.
look.
Yeah.
All in all,
What's up, man?
what I'm saying is, bro, young kid, go look in the mirror and see yourself as that answer. See yourself as the person who solves climate change. See yourself as the person who invents the application that helps make that helps your neighborhood and some like. See yourself as the innovator or the visionary.
Then see
who
yourself
builds
as the
these-
kid who makes the next TikTok. I mean, there's
That's
like,
what's well. I wouldn't want them to make something like TikTok. 'Cause
Right.
There's enough of them in the world.
Right.
But no, I'm playing.
Right.
I'm playing.
Yeah.
I'm playing. But the point of what I'm saying is this: it's all about the stories we tell ourselves. You grow up telling yourself
Facts.
certain things. I mean, Alexander the Great. I'm just using him
What
as
does
an
they
example.
call that? That's running in your head.
It's your story, your narrative,
yeah,
your
there's
single
something that's
story.
called, something that there's
or-
always going on in your head.
Yeah, you talking to yourself. I mean, Alexander the Great, and I'm just using. I know he's white. I'm just using him as an example because he came to mind. His mother grew up telling him he was Zeus' son, and stuff like that makes you. And he ended up conquering. Not that that's positive. I mean, that's terrible. He was oppressing people. But the point that I'm making is when you grow up with a narrative saying that you're meant to do something. It
changes you.
it almost propels you to do it. It
Right.
almost becomes second nature to you. So when you grow up saying innovation is in your blood is noble. Imagine what our people will become and what this world will be when we embrace that.
So for a teenager who's listening and you say innovation, could you break it down? Like, does it just have to be with technology? Break it down. for 'em.
Innovation is using your mind and creativity to improve systems in the world around you, typically in a way that benefits people. So again, me personally, and I posted about this on Facebook, I believe that human beings most resemble God in 2 instances: when you unconditionally loving other humans and when you're using your creativity to improve this world.
Right.
Because that's what God is. I mean, if you look at the story of Genesis, not to get religious, but if you look at the story of Genesis, it's God. The metaphor is it's God bringing order to a world, and He's commissioning man to work. When I say man, humankind to work in the sense that you improve this world with your creativity. That's what it means.
Take
to
dominion
have
of
that
it.
breath, That's what it means to have that breath. It doesn't mean ruling over the
Right.
system, making it like we typically say, but
Right.
it does mean just like I brought order out of this chaos, that what
You
was once
can too.
chaos. You go into this world and you reflect my spark, and you build out. You make it better for other people, because there can be innovation that's not so great.
Right.
Did y'all hear what he just said? So you telling me?
Oh, here we go.
Uh-oh.
So you telling me?
So what that little boy with the side eye?
So you telling me?
Yeah, you the god of black.
No,
tech.
no.
I got one last
he
question.
I
is.
don't believe. No,
He
that's
is.
not what I'm saying. I'm saying
No,
we
no,
all.
man. Look, I just called you the godfather of black tech.
No,
You are
You
the
come here.
godfather. You come
No,
here.
I would
Come here
need-
this day of my
No.
daughter's wedding.
But
One
anyway,
question for you,
word.
Tyrus. How can we be of help? Anybody listening here at this table, how can we help you in your vision?
Man, you help it. A, by spreading it. B, if you believe in it, take it up. There are so many different ways that people can be helpful and do it. There'll be ways to plug in pretty soon. You know, when we've soft launched, but when we actually launch, there'll be ways for people to plug in. But really, just take that deep. You know, we have the history of Black Wall Street is greater than just what was. What the
Right.
legacy of Black Wall Street is what we need to think about. And I think just like Greenwood gave the gift to Black people over a century ago, and it was the gift of the 4-minute mile of showing what was possible. 100 years later, I want Greenwood to give another gift to the nation, and that gift being, here's the way to close the intergenerational wealth gap, and here's the way forward for Black people for the next 100 years. And I believe it's through tech, not just one industry. Tech ain't just one industry. Tech is everything, honestly. Now, I think it's the medium through which we will change this world and get the change that we want to see.
There
So-
you have it.
Tap into Tyrus Billingsley III, the god of Black Tech Street.
Third or
He's
second?
on-
The
I mean,
second, but it's all good.
Tyrus
Nah,
Billingsley.
don't be. I ain't no, not the God, not the no.
The
So you're
god
on
founder.
website.
Yeah, www.blacktechstreet.com. Find us. We on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram.
Are you on the Snapchat?
We ain't on the Snapchat. We ain't on the TikTok yet.
Snapchats.
We'll get there, but
That's what I told my son. I was like, when Snapchat first came out, I was like, hey, how do I work the Snapchat? Add me on there. He said, well, if you're calling it the Snapchat, you don't need to be on
You
there.
don't need to be on
it.
The Snapchat.
You do not need to be on
The
there.
Snapchat.
Yo, man, in our final 2 minutes, what's your wrap ups, man? What's your wraps up for Sunday, May? What's it, the 9th?
Nine.
Yeah, my
It's
wrap
his
up
birthday.
is- It's Mother's Day. Happy pre-birthday to my daughter Madison. And my wrap up is that just like you said, changing that narrative in your head and what you said about not being hindered by your past. I woke up this morning. I had like a rough night last night. Somebody had me watch this crazy movie that probably kept me up another 3 hours. And then I started missing my dad. And all these things just kind of flooded back. And I was in the bathroom. And I was looking at myself and I felt like those old feelings come over me. And I looked at myself and I said, no. I'm like, everything that you went through, all of that stuff when you were a kid, none of that was your fault. You had nothing to do with any of that. Nothing whatsoever. The only thing that you're responsible for is what happened after the fact. And even though you made a lot of mistakes born out of that trauma, you are still here today and you overcame it. And I I was crying. Of course, I'm like, you overcame that. You did it. Of course, by God's grace, prayer, all of that. But you did it. You overcame that. So no, it was just because I also read something that even when you're coming into the new, the past is always going to keep trying to crop up, whether it's the past thoughts that were running in your head, past behaviors. This is my wrap up.
No, let her do this. I want to hear this.
No,
Yeah.
This is
Go ahead.
truth. We can run.
This
This
is true.
is true.
Yeah, the
Go
past
ahead.
is always
Go
going
ahead.
to crop
Wrap
up,
it up.
whether it's old bad habits, old relationships, anything that you let go of, because that is the ego, which the ego always wants the familiar. But we really have to look. I had to look at myself, and this was just coming from being in the right spaces and listening to things that over and over that are now being implanted in my mind, like being intentional about what I'm listening to, when I'm watching, energy exchanges, all of that stuff. But anyway, y'all, I looked at myself. So change your narrative that's in your mind. One thing that I always want my kids to know, I want them to be aware, but I never ever want them to be a victim to anybody, any circumstance, anything. There is literally nothing that you can't do or accomplish. Nobody can stop you. Nobody, no government, no House Bill 1770, none of that.
None of
Do
it.
you think that bill's not going to stop me from talking about anti-racism?
Amen.
So anyway, moving on. Anyway, that's my that's my wrap up. Is that really
Okay.
nobody can stop you from doing anything that you want to do.
That's
Happy Mother's
That's the
Day
wrap up
to
for
the
everybody.
queen.
Happy Mother's Day.
That's
Happy
the
Mother's-
wrap up for us all. We got to take care of us.
Amen.
All
And
right.
we out.
Thanks for listening.
Negro Nights, KBOB
Don't
89.9.
forget Mika in the morning
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the stimulus with Kiore at 12 noon.
Yep.